So you've announced the confirmation of this deal. We'd heard about it before, the Carillion health assets, but now we get confirmation. What difference is that going to make to your business?
So it's going to increase the size of our healthcare business in the UK by about 30%. And we've got we do lots of things in healthcare. It's mainly sort of cleaning, catering. If you see a Serco person coming at you with a needle, you want to hide, because we do.
You don't do that stuff.
We do all the non-medical stuff. But we already look after a lot of hospitals in the UK, like St Bart's here in London, the Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi, Fiona Stanley in Western Australia. But this gives us puts us to be sort of number one or number two in the UK market for looking after NHS hospitals.
And we have an awful habit in the media of when somebody does one deal of asking them if there are more coming, because it sort of sets is opportunistic M&A in this field, is that where you would look to do any further M&A?
Well, you accused me of being a meerkat only a few weeks ago. So of course we're always on the lookout for things that might arise. I mean, the sector is pretty troubled at the moment. We were early into financial carnage at Serco, and we got our balance sheet sorted out. You know, when opportunities present themselves, we have a look at them. We just announced another acquisition a few weeks ago of a small US company. So I think we take the opportunities as we see them.
Yeah, tell me how that turnaround is going, because you've been in the business a few years, setting this 5-year plan in motion. You're only a couple of years into it. How is it delivering against your expectations, Rupert?
So it's a hockey stick.
Right, explain.
Which is that we've gone down the bottom of the stick. We're now at the bottom, and it's now time to start going up the handle. And what we're announcing today is that we are pretty confident. We're giving guidance both, you know, we've met all of our guidance that we gave at the beginning of our plan. We've met our guidance for 15, for 16. We're going to immediately at the top end of it for 17. And we think that we're also going to be around consensus both for 18 and 19. We're going to work our way up the top of that handle. OK, and looking
at some of the areas in which you operate, clearly a lot of focus has been on your US business. I think I'm right now, around a third of your US revenue comes from work to do with Obamacare. Back in February of this year, you talked about how you could see US sales change materially depending on what Trump does with Obamacare. What's your latest thinking and guidance?
Well, I think it's going to go on for a bit. I mean, it's not been reformed to then a great extent. There's still what we do, which is eligibility testing, is that when people get federal subsidies for their healthcare, we check their eligibility. That contract is up for rebid. We have submitted a bid to renew it, and it employs a lot of people. It's about 3,500 people doing that. So we'll be waiting, chewing our fingernails on that in the early part of first part of 2018.
What do you do in the US, though, on that side, if you lose that kind of contract?
Well, we'll have to make it up elsewhere, and but it's a lot of people. It's relatively low margin contract, but we got the defence market is beginning to wake up a bit in our area, so there's some big opportunities there as well.
OK, Manus.
Anna, thanks. Rupert, you don't strike me as a CEO that chews your fingernails. A very good morning. I want to talk about what's happening down in this region of the world. You are a global player, but you told the market, this was back in November the 13th, that you were tendering for opportunities down here. It's getting tough and it's taking longer than you thought. Now, that's not a shock, Rupert, is it? That things take a little bit longer down here. Inshallah, I think, is the word. But where are we on that in a moderately serious way? Because the pipeline looked like £7.5 billion. I think the Middle East business was £2.5 billion. Can you update us? Do we now discount that business? Or is it any more firmed up?
Yeah, so we've got a big business in the Middle East. We run things like the Dubai Metro. We help run the air traffic control out of Dubai Airport and also Baghdad and Sharjah. We, as I say, look after hospitals such as the Cleveland Clinic. We have spent a lot of treasure and effort bidding for 2 major contracts to run rail operations, one in Doha and the other in Riyadh. And a few weeks ago, we took the decision that we were going to withdraw our bid teams from those bids because it struck us that we weren't going to win them. I think the reason is that we kind of took a different view of risk. So that's been. It was one of a range of contracts that we were hoping to win. We worked very hard at them, but we move on. We've got a big pipeline of opportunities going forward, but that will have reduced our pipeline quite considerably. The fact that we're no longer bidding, or we've stood down the bid teams on those two major opportunities.
OK, so that's telling the market something very clear and definitive. If you're going to reallocate your bids and your efforts, you take the bid teams and you focus on other deals. Where is the priority? You talk about the hockey stick with Anna there now. Where is the priority? Because I get the feeling that defence is something that François Hollande spoke to me about yesterday in France. Trump, we know, is spending money on defence in an old-fashioned way. BAE Systems just won a new contract. So there is alpha in this business, isn't there? So where is the priority on the hockey stick?
So, I mean, we are a specialist business-to-government supplier, and we cover lots of things. Our biggest order in this last 12 months has been to build and operate a prison in Australia. And of the sectors that we operate in, those are transport, defence, justice and immigration, health, and what we call citizen services. I think in each country, in each region, there tend to be different priorities because it sort of depends what's going down in any particular sector. So in the next couple of years in Australia, we're going to be very focused on the prisons business. We've got a big rebid of immigration business coming up in Australia. In the UK, likewise, there are opportunities in defence. There's a big contract to go and run fire services for the Ministry of Defence. That's going to be adjudicated in the next next couple of months. And in the US, likewise, defence and also traffic management. We've got some big bids in for traffic management as well. OK,
so it depends on the region. Let's talk a little bit about Brexit, because you are global as a business, but you're based here and you've been pretty vocal on this subject. We've talked about it before, Rupert. Is there opportunity in Brexit for your business? Because the weakness of the pound perhaps is one thing, but also in the UK, with governments very distracted by what's going on in the Brexit negotiation, is there some kind of opportunity in any of this for you?
Well, there's threat and opportunity. You rightly say that the UK government is incredibly distracted, and the challenge that our civil servants, who sometimes we don't recognise enough for the work that they do, but, you know, this is probably the biggest peacetime challenge they've had since 1916, since they were formed. I mean, it is vast. It's covering all the departments. Now, as far as Serco is concerned, we don't import anything and we don't export anything. So, you know, things like tariff barriers and that is not such a big issue for us. But at the moment, what is happening is government is extremely focused on getting all the Brexit work done. And so a lot of the reform work that they might have been doing clearly is sitting on the back burner, and they don't want distractions. But the one thing we do know about Brexit is that there's a whole lot more government going to be going on in the UK. There's about 34 regulatory agencies which we've got to bring onshore. And
so that's the opportunity.
And that should be the
opportunity. That's where the meerkat comes in. Yeah.
A little.
This is your analogy.
Yeah. We'll be scanning around to see whether we can be of assistance, whether we can be our loyal, humble servants, and helping the government. I mean, there's going to be huge investments going to have to be made into the borders and how those are managed, and government's going to need help doing that.
Yeah. When you started at Serco, I read that you bought, as a sort of gesture, you bought stock at 340 pence as a demonstration of your faith in the ability to turn around the business, and that the shares aren't near that. Do you ever think you're going to get the share price up?
No, it was a mistake. let's just say, if my advice to anybody, if they're coming into an uncertain situation, is give it a few months before you go and buy. And people say, did you know how bad it was when you went in? And I said, well, £1 million worth of stock at £3.40. He says no.
Yes. OK, so there are a few more rocks you wished you'd been able to shine a torch under.
Which you can't do. You just have to take. So I did work for free for the first year or so. But I'm comfortable, you know, I'm comfortable having a big shareholding in, well, for me, a big shareholding in the company, and it will come right.
OK. Rupert, thank you very much.